Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name's Matt Bailey. I'm the National Ambassador for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. Most of you know me by now. That light's really annoying. And I hope, I'm glad you could join me tonight in talking a little bit about, well, look, I called it Monday Rant. That's true, I did. And the idea is that we're going to talk a little bit about labeling, about transparency, about truth, if you like, in everything here. I'm just going to finalize bringing up all my streams so I can make sure I grab all the comments tonight. I don't want to miss any. Seriously. A rant about the word smooth. Like, you know, that's too easy. That's a soft target, Zeno. But I mean, I could. I mean, but it's just a bit easy to do that. So, you know, I'll leave the smooth for the true smooth warriors, of which there are plenty. Steve Oates, Mark Teague, everyone joining in. Thank you so much for joining in on the stream. I'm live right now to our Facebook group, our page, and YouTube. For those who don't know the difference, our Facebook group is really good for the discussion. It's great for the community. It's great for members to get together. Even non-members are in the group. That's fine. We welcome all and everyone to talk about whiskey, talk about flavor, to talk about society, talk about single casks you've tried, tasted, involved with, intrigued by, upcoming outturn discussion, events discussion. There's a lot going on there, of course, which is all very exciting. But I'm going to talk tonight a little bit about, like I said in the blurb for this, talking about wording, labeling, and more. This might get a little bit controversial tonight. That's why it's a Monday rant. And yes, Zeno, before you get into the rant, yes, Beachcomber is still available. It's on the website. There's like 50 bottles left. There's plenty to go around. But just like previous Heresy releases, they don't last. It's in like they're A, very easy to drink, but B, once people catch wind, it's like that sort of the bell curve of distribution on these things. There's that inverse bell curve. Anyway, it's really popular as soon as it comes out. Then it has a bit of a lull, but then it's going to be popular right at the end. So don't wait until the end to grab into what you want. Nick, the rant tonight is about different definitions of whiskey. Not so much different definitions, no. I mean, not about different countries. I'm going to more talk about sort of truth in labeling, because this is something that I've been really, really winding me up lately, as you can probably tell. What's been winding me up is the fact that is about what distillers and what people are putting on whiskey labels that might not necessarily be telling the whole truth, or might not be telling, might not be exactly okay in some countries to use that wording, and what does that mean? So I find that stuff really important. So I need to bring up one last image. Actually, I almost forgot, because I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. I want you all to have a look at something that I've been looking at here. Where are we? 1 second. Here we are. Okay. There's just a lot going on at the moment, which makes you think we could be doing a lot better. And I mean, by we, I mean the whiskey industry in general, in terms of communicating this to members, in terms of discussing this with members. And I think that's really, that's what's really crucial here. So I really appreciate you tuning in at the moment. And just like I say, just give me 2 seconds. I'm just working a few things out here. You know what? I can't find that last image. That's okay. Maybe it'll come up later. Where is it? Anyway. Oh, look, that's okay. Okay, so where are we? I'm going to share my screen in a moment, and I want to walk through some of the problems and some of the issues, if you like, surrounding exactly what I'm talking about here. So let me just put that into full screen so that works, and I'll just share my screen. Bear with me here. Okay, this should work. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so here's a photo taken at the vaults a couple of years ago, and this is sort of just some people at the vaults enjoying a dram. That's what the society is about getting together, having a few drinks, and sharing these experiences with close friends, as I've talked about before. But my rant tonight is about labeling. Now, I hope I've got these slides in the right order, but bear with me here. Let me just make sure I'm getting that right. Okay, here's an example of a recent release at the Society. This is still available on the website, by the way. This is a 134.7, a Dreamer's Dram, Society cask number 134.7, one of 215 bottles worldwide. You can see here, I'll use my mouse. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. It's got the flavor profile strip both here and in the age statement. So this is a sweet, fruity, and mellow in that flavor profile. Puffs of sweet spice and fried plantains were followed by tuna steak in an Asian sesame crust. A drop of water, and we drifted into oblivion. For those who joined us, Andrew and I, for the weird, wacky, and wonderful tasting last week, this was not last Friday, but the Friday before. This was one of the highlights of the lineup for me. It was a rich maltiness. I even talked a little bit about that word maltiness and transparency in flavor, but this is about transparency in labeling at the moment tonight. So you could call tonight part 3 of that sort of that series from last week on Wednesday and Thursday night. This is sort of this is Monday night's rant, but the rant is we'll follow a few things along here. So bear with me a moment. I want to make sure I get my order right here. Distilled 31st of January 2014. We put the age statement on here as well. 5 years aged. In this case, it's a young malt, but it's aged in India. It's an Indian single malt whiskey. It's from Goa, India, and it's a second fill ex-bourbon barrel. Now, there's nothing sort of doesn't really sort of, no surprises in the label there. It shows you exactly what's going on here. Why I want to mention this is because I've always been proud of the fact that the Society actually lists everything that's going on in the whiskey on the front label. But not to the point of where it's absurdity, like this barrel was matured in this warehouse on this date. And I don't think that kind of information tells you anything about the actual flavor of that whiskey. So what tells you about the flavor are things like flavor profile, region, cask type, and tasting notes, and name. So there's 5 things straight away that tell you about flavor rather than just what's on the label. Rather than things that don't tell you about flavor, which is like water source and which warehouse B rack 21 was mature. It doesn't like. I love nerding out about this stuff as well, as much as you probably do. But at the same time, you need to take a step back from that sometimes and focus on flavor. Now, the reason I'm getting around this is because there have been some examples of distilleries lately, and I want to choose. I'm going to choose my words carefully here. There have been some distilleries lately that aren't being completely honest. And I've blanked out the names of the distilleries and the photos coming up in this slide just in a moment for the sake of, I guess my reputation, my sanity, and not getting sued. So I'll show you this now. So here's what it looks like. The reason why I'm showing this is because this is a single cask. This is what Society does best. This is what we know how to do. This is what our expert tasting panel just push forth with. And I'm showing you that now because have a look at this next whiskey in the lineup. Here's a whiskey that was malt of the month a couple of months ago. If not that, not even a couple of months ago. I think it was May malt of the month from memory. I don't think it was June. Anyway, maybe it was June. Sorry. Anyway, this is called I Like Big Butts. And a big shout out to Irina, who I think it was her who discovered the I Like Big Butts and then sat it next to her bottle of rubbed with fragrant body oil. So we're playing a bit of an online game of what's it called? Cards Against Humanity. Very funny. The bourbon scene has been pushing the boundaries. I'm going to show that comment. The bourbon scene has been pushing the boundaries between spirit and marketing, but they've been doing that for a long time, and sometimes they do it well, and sometimes they don't. Anyway, I'm just going to press on with this. So, however, okay, so it says 66.164, one of 623 bottles, so bigger outturn. It's in the green strip. It's a peated profile, this one. 7 years aged. 25th of April 2012. Region Highland. Tasting note, name, outturn, cask number, flavour profile. 61.8%. Something a bit different here. Initial cask, ex-Oloroso butt. Final cask, second fill ex-sherry butt. Now, we'll put an article up on our website shortly showing what the difference is. I'm going to just flip between these two images for a moment. You can see this one's missing its second cask. Its final cask, sorry. We only ever go from one cask to one cask and only ever once. So if you look at this, it's sort of like we've got one cask here, full maturation. In this case, we've got two. It's a ex-Oloroso butt, and its final cask is a second fill ex-sherry butt. We're not trying to hide that. We're not trying to say, oh, this is, 5 or 6 years in ex-Oloroso, and then we can tell you where it finished, or other way around. We're just going to say, yeah, it was second fill Oloroso. We're trying to be as transparent as possible with members of showing. Irina, you've got no idea. I'm going to get sued on tonight's stream anyway because of what I'm about to say. That's okay. It's not sued, but I'm certainly going to not be the most favorite person. So here we go. So it's gone from a sherry butt to a sherry butt. I think that's kind of cool. It's an interesting way to do extra maturation, and I think this did wonders to this whiskey. Was a fun peated whiskey. This was a lot of fun to drink and enjoy. Just had the most marvelous nose. It was rich, Oloroso-y, spicy note. Anyway, so that's where I want to start. Now, I'm going to push on to the next slide here. Come on. Now, here's a whiskey. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. Here's a whiskey from Australia. I don't know what distillery it is. It says McBagpipe. That's my my cheap Photoshop job here. So I'll zoom in on that for us. Actually, before I delve into this, a question here from Nick Huzek. He says, can whiskies have multiple finishes? They can. And in fact, that starts verging into being just called a single malt then. We don't do that at Society. We go from one cask to one cask. There might be some other experiments coming, but, others might not, it's a good question, Nick. I'm going to come back around to that. So I don't know which distillery this is. It's called McBagpipe Distillery. It's an Australian whiskey. Single malt whiskey. World's finest. That's a big call. Defined by detail. Sure. I don't know what distillery it is. Couldn't tell you. I'm not going to get in trouble. So here we go. I've even blacked it out on the lid. Here's the thing that bothers me. Established 2018. I tasted this in 2019, I'm sure. It was definitely 2019. Or maybe it was even 2018. I don't know. Time flies. So here we go. This is a problem. This is not from McBagpipe Distillery. It can't be, because it has to be 2 years old minimum to be called from that distillery. What I'm saying is, if I'm just going to go back a slide for a second here. No, I can't. Hold on. What we need is a bit more transparency, and I'm going to use the Society as an example because that's what I know best. And what we deserve is a bit more transparency of what we're drinking, of having the distillery code in this case. And I know we hide our distilleries behind a code, but that's another story. I mean, that's a historical reason, which I won't go into right now. Yeah, okay. I'm going to throw up some of those comments there. Look, I'm really sorry. I told you I had a bit of a bit of a rant to go on tonight. So that was my See, I don't know what distillery this is, and I'm sure. Here's the thing: when I've tasted from what I've tasted from these releases, and I don't want to say this distillery, I'm going to say from these releases, some of them have been actually bloody good. They've been some good whiskey. I'm not overly enamored by 3 kilo metal stoppers and velveteen coffin boxes and stuff. Whatever, that doesn't really float my boat. But I'm more interested in what's inside the glass rather than what's outside it. But this is kind of my point in that I think as an industry we kind of deserve better in what we're drinking and what is labelled on the bottle. If it's from that distillery, it's from that distillery. That's fine. But that's not for me to say. But look, I'm just going to say that I think as whiskey drinkers, we deserve better in what's being presented in our glasses. Now, I'm going to move to this next point. Let me do it. Come on. Now, great whiskey. Ben Riach make great whiskey. They found a way around it, and kudos to them. So years ago, they used to use the words single cask. This is my rant tonight. This is part of my rant. But now they've moved on to using phrases like cask bottling. Cask bottling doesn't really tell you anything about it. It just means it's a single malt. So it may have been in 12 casks. It may have been in 1,200. It doesn't matter. It was finished in something, probably. In this case, Pedro Jimenez Puncheon. I don't know this bottling in particular. It's just something I pinched off the web. So selected by La Maison du Whisky, LMDW. great mob. 687 bottles to that cask. So what I'm saying is this is an example of where they've found a really crafty workaround, just like we have, by putting an initial and final. That's what all we work with. We want the exacting flavors of a single cask, and these guys are doing something a little bit different. So they're saying it's cask number 3946. That's the final cask it was finished in right there, and that's fine. There's no problem. There's no problem with that. Lee, you might be right on that. I couldn't possibly comment. Irene asks, if they had defined by mystery on the label, I wouldn't mind so much. I like drinking mystery from IBers. Oh, hang on. Distillery? Still don't know if it's a distillery of barrel borrower. I like that phrase, barrel borrower. It's a hard one to say, but I like it. Yeah, defined by mystery would have made more sense, to be honest. I'm not bad. By the way, I want to, again, make this really clear in this video. I am not in any way bashing what these guys have done. I actually, like I said, some of the whiskey I've tried was actually bloody good. I'm just saying that as whiskey drinkers who are inclined to spend $500, $700, $900, $1,200 on a bottle of whiskey deserve better. Not in terms of quality, maybe that's subjective, but in terms of transparency. And I don't need to know which rack it's been sitting in. I don't need to know the yeast strain printed on the bottle. It's nice to have that stuff maybe on the website, but I'm just saying whiskey drinkers deserve a better run when it comes to higher priced ticket items, especially. I feel like otherwise it's a bit disingenuous. I'm happy to be proven wrong, and please don't sue me. So this is an example of where a distillery has gotten around that. The example of using single cask when Benriach was actually made an example of, just like the SMWS was. Actually, Benriach and SMWS share a unique history, both in bottling hall and all sorts of reasons. But this is really cool. They found a way around it by calling it cask bottling, as you can see there, or even more accurately, you can see there, where it doesn't say single cask anymore because it's not, and that's fine. If you want to bottle a single malt, it's a single malt now. That's great. I'm a huge single malt fan, and I'm just going to move to the next slide. That's just another example of more modern packaging, I think. Let's be honest, if that spent 21 years in a virgin oak hogshead, it would taste like licking a fence post. It's not 21 years in virgin oak, but I'm not begrudging them for the fact of that. I'm just saying it's fantastic that they found a way to make some use of that spirit and produce a lovely whiskey. So then, of course, the further detail in the Society's case outside of the bottle image is, of course, in our full tasting notes, which is in each outturn and online. So you can read up on the full tasting note that the panel has provided there. The outturn proof, where's that going? The number of bottles we've got, all that kind of stuff. The grid there of all the good information there, and the full tasting note, which has been expertly put together by our tasting panel. If you want to learn more about the UK tasting panel, our expert tasting panel, you can watch some of my previous videos on that. They're on our YouTube channel now for you to watch. So, but that's an example of where the extra level of detail is important and that can be found elsewhere, rather than cloak and daggers and smoke and mystery. And I've got no problem with whiskey being, well, single cask, obviously, because that's what we do best. However, I just have a problem when it's not single cask and it's called as such, or it's not from that distillery and it is called as such. There was another example of a distillery in Taiwan recently using the phrase natural color on some of their whiskeys when they're not. See, but not every distillery around the world, of course, is bound by the laws of the SWA. The Scotch Whisky Association in Scotland protect the appellation and wording and phraseology of the Scotch whisky industry and the identity of that spirit. Years ago, I used to think the SWA were evil. It's like, yeah, they hamper the industry, they hold it back. I actually don't think it's that case at all. I think it's actually the case of it being that they're an industry body that actually protects the category, protects the appellation, and stops things like rum happening. Let's be honest. I mean, rum, I love rum, but rum is, you can call any rum anything these days, and it doesn't have to be even from an operational distillery. A lot of the same can be said about the American whiskey industry. If you look at Japanese whiskey, even at the moment, a lot of it is even in Japanese whiskey, as everyone's starting to learn very quickly after the 2016 gold rush on Japanese whiskey. Oates says, "I love that you had to preface your name because you haven't given StreamYard permission." Okay, by definition, a single cask is a single cask. Surely, if a second cask is used, the term single cask is null and void. Oates, very good point. Let me rewind a second here on the other screen for you. There's 66. I'll bring it up for you. There's 66 or 164. Lovely whiskey. It's had a initial cask of an ex Oloroso butt, a second fill ex sherry butt. It doesn't say single cask on there anymore, and it shouldn't, because it's not. That's where the example's being made of us, and that's where the quality is going up in what we're doing. So the fact that we've got this process now that we can actually be much more transparent with what it is, and I think that's really important. When it doesn't have a final cask, it's just a single cask. But if it has a final cask, it has an extra maturation, or in some cases a finish. By the way, for those playing along at home, the difference between extra maturation and finishing, extra maturation means 3 years or more of maturation on top of the initial. So that's where it's an 8-year-old first maturation and then bottled as a 12-year-old. So it's had 8 years in the first cask, 4 in the second. That's an extra maturation. So that's where it's had a full extra minimum maturation of 3 years to be called whiskey in the second cask. If it's 1 or 2 years, it's a finish. And there's pros and cons to both. And sometimes you only need a finish just to add that next layer to a whiskey. Other times you might need extra maturation to really change that profile, to get a whiskey working, to wake it up a bit. Mark, that's a good question. So should I stop referring to SMWS bottling to single cask where it has been finished? Well, I mean, given what I've just told you about extra maturation, finishing, and labeling, I still call them single cask, but I mean, it's one cask to one cask, but the SWA are making an example of saying maybe we shouldn't use the word single cask if it's been in 2. And I completely agree with that. I think that's a really good move. But remembering, Mark, I mean, 93% of what we do is still single cask. A very small amount is finishing or extra maturation. It's a very small number overall. So I'm gonna just press through these slides for a moment here. Actually, I'll bring that back down here, so that we're all up to date. So anyway, that was where I was saying that the full extent of what we release and the details of which I think should be as transparent as possible. It's not too hard to work out what distillery 134 is. It's not too hard to work out. It's the 7th cask we've ever bottled from there that we've picked out from panel, and actually it was a lovely whiskey. So there's some really, that's my rant at the moment. My rant is, I'm going to go back to that slide that got the most reactions on here, and understandably so. There is, as I said, McBagpipe Distillery, established 2018, as it says on the lid. Now, I commend them for putting their date on there, but it kind of works against them at the same time, doesn't it? Because it's a single malt whiskey, which in Australia needs to be matured in oak. No, that's not true. It has to be matured in a wooden vessel, according to the ATO, not just oak. That's why we do see some odd wood decisions, and sometimes they don't, and most of the time they don't work, to be honest. Then it has to be minimum 2 years, and I can say with an absolute certainty that I tasted this somewhere in early to mid 2019. So take that for what it's worth. I mean, and I'm fine with calling a spade on this stream, as you know. So no, and as I said, the whiskey. I'm not making a critique of the spirit. I'm making a critique of the labeling, and I think whiskey drinkers deserve better. So let's move on. I'm going to finish up these. I need to zoom out. Gotta love that. Anyway, so I'm gonna show you. Well, actually, that slipped in there, but I was going to show this one later. But that's okay. I'll show it now. And then this is in case that when you see it in a what am I doing here? Oh, that's not working. I'm on the wrong screen. Okay, so this is an example of a Society cask number 24.140. For those with a keen eye, would have noticed 24.139 a couple of months ago. It was one of the oldest and rarest whiskies we've ever released. This is the follow-up. This is the second one in the series. It's a properly old and dignified refill ex-sherry butt, full maturation, 30-year-old whiskey, 1989 from Distillery 24, which is probably one of the most renowned distilleries on earth. Mesmerizing, as if under a spell, we scooped thick Manuka honey on to strawberry orange melange and drank mead, the nectar of the gods. This one is coming out. And again, very small allocation, but we'll make it available to members online. And I'm not sure. I think we might have to do this on ballot, just given the rarity of it. But that's more to come. Of course, some of the other things I want to just touch on tonight, just before I finish up, was to show that the society does definitely do things differently. There's a reason why we're one of the most desirable independent bottlers. Isn't because of just the bottling, it's because of the community And, of course, our partner bars. Here's a photo from 108 single casks open right now on the bar at Whisky and Almond downstairs. They are open again at the moment. They recommend bookings so that because they can only fit, they're only allowed so many people indoors at the moment. But what a photo! What a spread! And of course, it's all about the other defining factor about the society versus, of course, other IBs is being a whiskey club is all about our events. We've been doing a whole bunch of online events lately, of course, because of COVID. I anticipate we'll keep going a lot of them as well, especially for our friends down in Victoria. Hope you're all doing well, those in Victoria at the moment. It's looking like rough times at the moment. Another photo from that was just an event we did last year. That was fantastic. That was in March or April last year. It feels like an eternity ago, doesn't it? Of course, our Unfiltered magazine, which you all know and love, all those great articles and everything that we write in there. There's another issue coming out very shortly. It's a quarterly issue. Our tasting panel led by Charles McLean. There he is, drinking a pitcher of wash at a distillery somewhere. If anyone's nerdy enough to be able to spot which distillery that is from the background of that photo, then you let me know because I've got no idea. But, you have to be Charlie to drink a pint of wash, or should I say a stein, or whatever that unit of measurement is, whatever's bigger than a pint. And, of course, our expert tasting panel led also by our whiskey master on the right there, Ewan Campbell. What a guy. And that's Dr. Irene to his left, or to his right, our left, from the Scotch Whisky Research Institute, of which we're a member. And, of course, also led by Dr. Andy Forrester. That is not a stock photo. That is actually Dr. Forrester on our team doing some experiments and assessing in our laboratory there in the UK. There's a lot going on with the society. It's all very exciting. Rob Akers says, I'm ready for a return to lockdown. Got lovely green bottles ready to go. Rob, I'm glad you are. I'm not sure many people share your sentiment. But just a couple of last little announcements before I finish up just this half hour on truth in labelling. I'm going to show you, here we go, the 2 Vaults Collection bottlings that are coming out. Well, they're already on the website. I mean, you can read more about them. 97.22 and 53.308. They are both ballot releases. There's 12 bottles of the 53.308 and there's 6 bottles of the 97.22. The ballot's getting very full at the moment, but in case any members missed out on the ballot, they are going up. They are available. Yes, sorry. You can still enter the ballot up until this Thursday. I think at 11 a.m. the ballot closes, or 10 a.m. It's on the product. There you go. So it's some very rare releases there. I'm particularly kicking myself. I won't be able to even get a bottle of that 53.308 for myself, but members come first, as we say. And then what else have we got here? Oh, of course. Don't forget, it's in your July outturn. We've got the deluxe membership tasting virtual kit. There it is. It's 3 100ml samples, $129. You can get it in July. It's a $50 saving. Thursday, the 23rd of July at 7:30 p.m. I'm going to open all 3, do a live tasting. Come join me. It'll be on the platform you're watching right now. It'll be good fun. I think that's the end of my slides, actually. But slideshow. Who loves a slideshow? Look. It could be a vase. It could be a vase he was drinking out of there, Rob. I really appreciate you tuning in tonight. I really appreciate you being a part of the nightly live stream that I do. Yes, I take the odd night off here or there, or I'm at an event or I've got something on. Look, I'd like to go every night that I can. I really appreciate you tuning in tonight and being a part of the stream, as I said. And I will see you all tomorrow night, Tuesday night. I'll see what the topic is. I'll have to get back to you on that. Watch the Facebook group, watch my Twitter feed, watch our Instagram stories, all that kind of stuff. And I will catch you all tomorrow. Have a great night. Dram on. Slanjava. And cheers.